At most ranks, coordinating on attack is as impossible to do as not finishing that entire family-sized bag of Doritos once you've opened it. That's why the most prevalent style of play is to face rush 5 people into a site and overwhelm the defense, or get mowed down trying. If you saw my video explaining FaZe's attack style, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about and why this works even at the highest levels of play. If the attackers get rolling, it can be an absolute nightmare to play against on defense. So I wanted to make a video about how to counter this style of play. And who better to use than the Masters 1 champions, Sentinels, who beat FaZe and their aggressive mayhem style of play 5 times in a row during the tournament. Round 3 is a really perfect example of how to play against raw aggression. Look at how Sentinels plays a very bend or break style of defense. Shazam goes for an early pick with the operator, misses his shot, and then falls back deeper into the site, instead of re-challenging for position. Zoms, meanwhile, is holding the choke point from as far back as possible for an easy retreat. FaZe, because they are FaZe, continue to look for aim duels and push forward, and this means that Marv walks directly into an op shot. Again, Shazam falls back after shooting even farther to avoid being rushed, and this has now bought plenty of time for Sentinels to have all 5 players around the site. The most important thing here was to not lose anybody, because now they have a 5 against 4 advantage in terms of numbers. After regrouping, Tens makes an aggressive play and finds another kill to give Sentinels a 5 against 3 hold, and this means that Sick can now kind of drift off site to make sure that there's no flank coming or any sort of rotation. However, as soon as Corey gets a pick on Dapper, Sick immediately returns to the site to make sure that they keep that numbers advantage for the fight. Sentinels is basically employing this sort of logic that more players alive means better chances that you can just kind of trade your way to victory going 1 for 1 for 1, and if you have more players, obviously you will be the last one standing. You can also see that once Dapper dies, Sentinels becomes very passive again, daring FaZe to press forward, and once again Sick rotates off to check middle. As he does this, however, FaZe presses forward, but walks right into the players that are holding position, and Sick then rushes back to site to make sure that they have that numbers advantage and secure the round. The next gun round is pretty much the same. Shazam goes for an early peek but falls back as FaZe invests a bunch of utility to set up their push. As he does this, Zoms again holds a very passive far back angle, and the rest of the Sentinels begin to rotate to site. Sentinels doesn't give FaZe any chance to take any aim duels or find a pickoff with their positioning. And I want to briefly contrast this with the defensive round from the Envy series against FaZe to show the difference in how quickly Sentinels commits to making sure that they have these rotations in place and that they don't take any unnecessary aim duels. Unable to get their first pick, FaZe resets and then goes for a showstopper to try and dig Zoms out of the back corner that he's playing in. They invest a recon dart, a slow orb, and of course the rocket, which misses, and Zoms is able to fall back into cover again, just avoiding conflict as much as possible. Having invested so much utility, however, FaZe wants to get something out of it, and they press forward, and Zoms finds an easy kill before once again falling back deeper into cover. Just look at this cluster of Sentinels players in the back of site. It's making it almost impossible for FaZe to clear the site without walking directly into an absolute hail of bullets from all angles. And though Shazam does get picked off, the Sentinels are so densely packed onto the site that it's just impossible for FaZe to push them off, which means that the attackers simply have to just kind of feed into this immovable defensive position, having used a bunch of utility already. Now, not every single round will go as planned. Against aggressive teams, sometimes pickoffs will happen. And in round 6, we see FaZe get their first opportunity to take a round when they find an initial pick on Dapper. Instead of trying to reinforce the choke point though, Sick shows some very good defensive fundamentals and instead falls back to a much safer part of the site. This positioning denies the attackers a second kill and also allows the defenders to rotate in with some sort of information about what's going on because the site hasn't been completely overrun by attackers. And sure, the Sentinels have the gun advantage, but FaZe has won plenty of economy rounds by finding that first pick and quickly turning it into 2 and more just by throwing bodies at a defender with a better weapon than them. Round 8 is the next gun round, and this time we see Dapper holding B much more passively, having learned his lesson. As soon as he sees the pressure coming, he falls back to the site and actually puts up a sage wall in front of the default plant spot to force FaZe to push deeper onto the site and go around it. These kinds of annoying, low-risk delay tactics are super effective at slowing down a full-on push. Sentinels uses the time to quickly rotate more players to B. Corey finds a kill mid, however, and FaZe immediately tries to throw the round into chaos by teleporting their Omen into kitchen and flanking Sentinels from multiple sides. This leaves Tens on an island, and FaZe is quick to punish him. Because they were able to rotate over as a team, however, they get the trade, and left in a 3 against 3, consolidate their strength into one area, completely giving up the A site. With 3 players in the area, Sentinels is able to watch all of their angles, and this allows them to punish the individual pushes from FaZe as they try to close out the round. Faced with wild aggression and a lot of very individual plays from FaZe, Sentinels avoided playing the ego game and trying to out-duel FaZe on pretty much every single map. By not giving up early map control through taking these risky duels, they forced FaZe to actually work really hard to get full site control. This bought them a lot of time for rotations to come in from the other site and forced FaZe to use a lot of extra utility to clear all the deeper angles on a site. Sentinels were very careful with their positioning to make sure that all of their players were able to be traded once the fighting did start, and this meant that FaZe was never really able to snowball a round by getting one pick after the next after the next. One other thing that Sentinels consistently did was investing in an operator on defense, which is easily the best gun in the game to punish attackers who are rushing towards the site. I was thoroughly impressed by how clean and disciplined of a game Sentinels were able to play, and it really outclassed FaZe, who had no answers to this perfect counter to their style of play. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe, as I'm going to do a giveaway at 5,000 subscribers.